Good afternoon, Dr. Stein. My name is Shannon Rivers. I'm Ahmed Oakum from a place you guys call Arizona. There's a lot of issues and struggles that go on in indigenous communities. We are right now on the Tongva territory. Now it's called Los Angeles. But there's so many issues that go on in Indian country. And right now we have the Dakota Access Pipeline that's happening in the north. And we see our people being arrested constantly for protecting what they believe is their right, their human right. First of all, their human right. Then we look at the south, my place where I come from, the border issues, where we have over, in one of our communities, one of our reservations, we have about 40,000 Department of Homeland and Border Patrol vehicles just patrolling that whole area, terrorizing the people and destroying the land, the flora and the fauna. So we here, my nephew and I, our families, we live here in Los Angeles now, only for a little while. We want to go back to our communities, and we will. But we hear a lot of our white brothers and sisters talk about environment and about how to change this American society. We hear this talk constantly, right? We hear the issues. But what we see as our right, is our innate right, our inherent right, whether it's regards to treaties, whether it's regards to human rights, international laws and policies that have been in place for a long time, even laws that have been adopted by this Congress or by this member state here of the UN. What is your idea, your thoughts? I know you mentioned calling to a hearing, but we've had hearings, whether it was through the Department of Interior or Bureau of Indian Affairs, we've had hearings. But we still see these ongoing violations of indigenous people's rights within this territory, or within these territories and within these boundaries of what America calls its boundaries. We would like to see something more than just a reconciliation. We need to see the honoring of the original treaty territorial boundaries, not just standing alone, because that's a reservation. But we're talking 1868 treaties, 1851 treaties, the treaties of Gaston Purchase and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that have violated indigenous peoples constantly. This is a heavy question, and it's very difficult for most people, especially Americans, to answer, because even those that run for office still have this idea of what America should be and looks like. But we constantly see these human rights violations on indigenous peoples. They are the ones getting arrested. They are the ones with high per capita murder and incarceration. We see these constantly. We see it all the time. How would you address these issues? And I know that's a big question, but we hear the constant rhetoric by people who run for this American office, and how do you recognize that this is stolen land? Not just reparations, but honoring those rights and honoring the rights to free, prior, and informed consent, honoring the rights of free mobility of indigenous peoples in the territories. How do you see yourself as a candidate, doctor, to address these issues? And I appreciate you for giving us the time, me and my nephew standing here, and our people, the people. We don't represent all indigenous peoples, but we represent the voice of indigenous peoples. And I appreciate that.
Thank you. I want to honor everything you're saying and recognize that we owe so much to the indigenous nations for leading the way in our struggle against climate catastrophe. That it is our indigenous brothers and sisters standing up to defend their land and their water and your treaty rights, and to stop pipelines, and to stop the uranium mines, and to stop coal plants and excavation. Protecting your rights is critical to all of our survival, not just on climate, but also in protecting our waters, in protecting us from radioactive waste and the cycle of nuclear power that begins in indigenous lands with the mining of uranium. And I think it's been so important for us to be listening to what the indigenous communities are teaching us about Mother Earth, about the importance of treaty rights, and the importance of taking all of these steps to shut down the continued extraction, excavation, the raping of our lands, our mountains, our deserts, that is creating this crisis that we're all facing. And I think we have been educated in the white community, in the environmental community. We have benefited so much from the examples of courage of the indigenous people who faced down, for example, the Keystone Pipeline. Again, the Dakota nations who created encampments along the path of that pipeline and said, this is where we will live and this is where we will die. We are not moving. And that courage, I think, inspired everyone. It inspired an entire climate justice movement. And I think that inspiration continues. The fight becomes more desperate all the time, as we're witnessing now in North Dakota, where the government has sued to try to stop the protests, and there will be a case in court. I know today the temporary injunction against the pipeline was declared illegal. So there's been a small legal victory right now. I'm sorry, declaring the protest illegal. Oh. That has been defeated. So for now, the protest is legal. There is another legal challenge. Another legal challenge that will have to be faced at the end of the next week. So it's an ongoing struggle, and I can only say that it's a struggle I've been very committed to myself, to supporting the leadership of the indigenous communities, whether in the Dakotas or in Wisconsin, where the fight is against the sand mines for the fracking and the mineral mines, the metal mines. I think it's copper. I'm not sure which one it is. But this is going on all over, and it's indigenous people who are being poisoned and whose land and water is being stolen. So all I can say is that I think we need to keep building this alliance, keep educating the public who's come to understand that they are very much at risk here, and for us to keep lifting up the struggle of indigenous people here and all over the world who really are the caretakers of our natural world, of Mother Earth, and for people to understand that if we are going to have a Mother Earth, we need to have the protections for the indigenous people who are the caretakers of Mother Earth for us all.